The gun was still warm when Aurelia Knox realized she had made the worst mistake of her life. She had only stepped into the alley behind the Gangnam Lounge to escape the suffocating heat of the club, to catch her breath after another exhausting week teaching English to Seoul's elite children. But now she stood frozen, her back pressed against cold brick, watching a man in an immaculate charcoal suit press a silenced pistol against another man's temple. The streetlight caught his profile, sharp jawline, cold eyes, and an expression of absolute control. He pulled the trigger without hesitation, without even a flicker of emotion crossing his face. The body crumpled. The man in the charcoal suit turned, and his eyes locked onto hers. Aurelia ran. She made it exactly 7 steps before a hand caught her wrist, spinning her around with such controlled force that she slammed back against the wall. He was closer now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive, cedar and smoke. Close enough to see that his eyes weren't cold at all, but burning with a dangerous kind of calculation. "You saw nothing," he said in perfect English, his voice low and smooth as silk over steel. "I saw nothing," Aurelia whispered, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. He studied her face for a long moment, his gaze traveling over her features with an intensity that made her skin flush despite the terror coursing through her veins. Then he smiled, and somehow that was more frightening than the gun. "Liar," he said softly. "You saw everything. Before we continue, please subscribe, and share this story if you love dangerous romance. Now listen carefully, because nothing about this love story is safe." Aurelia didn't sleep that night. She packed a bag called the airline and was searching for the earliest flight back to Atlanta when her apartment door opened. Not unlocked, not broken, just opened as if the lock meant nothing at all. He stood in her doorway, still in that perfect charcoal suit, though his tie was loosened now. 2 men flanked him, silent, massive, expressionless. "Going somewhere, Miss Knox?" He stepped inside, and she noticed he'd removed his shoes, a small gesture of respect that felt absurd given he'd just broken into her home. "I'm Seo Jinwoo, and we need to talk about what you saw tonight." "I told you I saw nothing." Aurelia's voice shook, but she forced herself to meet his eyes. She'd learned early in life that showing fear only made predators hungrier. "Yes, you did tell me that." Jinwoo moved through her small apartment with casual grace, examining her books, her photographs, the half-finished lesson plans on her desk. "You also told me in Korean, when you muttered to yourself in the alley. You speak my language fluently. You teach the children of diplomats and business executives. You know this city better than most foreigners. Which means you're not just a witness, Miss Knox. You're a problem. So kill me," Aurelia said, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. "Isn't that what people like you do?" Something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe, or amusement. "People like me? Gangsters. Criminals. Whatever you are." "I'm a businessman," Jinwoo said, but his smile acknowledged the euphemism. He settled into her only chair, crossing his legs with elegant ease. "And killing you would create more problems than it would solve. An American woman, well-connected in Seoul's expat community, suddenly disappearing? That draws attention. Investigations. Questions." He paused, his gaze sharp. "No, I have a better solution. You work for me now. Excuse me? You'll continue your normal life. Teaching. Your weekend market visits. Your book club at that coffee shop in Itaewon. But you'll also be available when I need a translator, a cover, or someone who can move through certain circles without suspicion." He stood, buttoning his jacket. "Think of it as employment. I pay very well. And if I refuse?" Jinwoo moved so quickly she didn't see him coming. Suddenly he was in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. His hand came up, and she flinched, but he only tucked a curl behind her ear, his fingers barely brushing her cheek. "You won't refuse," he said softly, "because you're smart enough to know that staying close to me is the only thing keeping you alive right now. There are people in my organization who don't share my restraint. People who would prefer a simpler solution to the problem of you." His touch lingered a heartbeat too long. Then he stepped back, and the moment shattered. "Someone will contact you tomorrow with instructions. Get some sleep, Miss Knox. You look exhausted." He moved toward the door, then paused. "And Aurelia, don't try to run again. I hate wasting resources on chase." He left, and somehow the apartment felt colder without him in it. The first week was terrifying. Then it was strange. Then, impossibly, it became almost normal. Jinwoo's requests were sporadic but precise. "Translate this document. Attend this dinner as my companion. Smile and pretend we're dating while I conduct business in the corner booth." The assignments were never explicitly criminal, but Aurelia wasn't naive. She knew she was being used as camouflage, a respectable face to mask whatever darkness Jinwoo was orchestrating behind the scenes. But he was never cruel to her, never threatening after that first night. In fact, he was unfailingly polite, even gentle in the way he guided her through his world. His hand on her lower back at formal dinners. His jacket draped over her shoulders when they left a restaurant and the Seoul night had turned cold. Small gestures that felt far too real for their pretend arrangement. "You're staring," Jinwoo said without looking up from the contract he was reviewing. They were in his office, all glass and steel and minimalist luxury, while she translated a series of emails. "I'm not. You are. You've been staring for the past 10 minutes. Now he did look up, and his expression was amused. "Do I have something on my face? I'm trying to figure you out," Aurelia admitted. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect? A monster?" "Yes, actually." Jinwoo set down his pen, giving her his full attention. "And now I don't know what you are." He smiled, but there was something sad in it. "That makes two of us, Aurelia." The sound of her name in his mouth, soft and slightly accented, made her stomach flip. She looked away, focusing on her laptop screen, but she could still feel his gaze on her. "Why do you do this?" she asked quietly. "This life. You're clearly educated. You could do anything." "I do what I'm good at." "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He stood, moving to the window that overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. "My father built this organization from nothing. When he died, I was 19 years old and suddenly responsible for 300 people's livelihoods. Their families. Their safety. I didn't have the luxury of choosing a different path, Aurelia. This is who I am." There was something raw in his voice, something vulnerable that he usually kept locked away. Aurelia found herself standing, moving closer to him without thinking. "You could choose now," she said. "You're not 19 anymore." "No, I'm not." He turned to face her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "But it's far too late for me. The things I've done, the blood on my hands, there's no redemption for someone like me." "I don't believe that." "Then you're naive." But he said it gently, almost tenderly. His hand lifted, fingers tracing the line of her jaw. "You should stay away from me, Aurelia. Nothing good comes from getting too close to someone like me." "You're the one who won't let me leave," she whispered. "I know." His thumb brushed across her lower lip, and her whole body responded, heat flooding through her. "Believe me, I know. If I were a better man, I'd let you go. Send you back to America where you'd be safe. But I'm not a better man. I'm selfish. And I want you here." The confession hung between them, heavy with possibility. Aurelia knew she should step back, should maintain the professional distance that was the only thing keeping her sane. But instead, she swayed forward, drawn to him like gravity. The office door burst open. Jinwoo moved instantly, putting himself between Aurelia and the intruder. But it was only Min Jae, his second in command, looking uncharacteristically rattled. "We have a problem," Min Jae said in rapid Korean. "The Busan faction knows about the girl." "What does that mean?" Aurelia demanded as Jinwoo's car sped through Seoul's streets, his driver taking turns fast enough to make her stomach lurch. "What's the Busan faction?" "Rivals," Jinwoo said tersely. He was on his phone, issuing commands in clipped Korean. "They've been trying to undermine my position for months. If they think you're important to me, they'll use you as leverage." "Am I? Important to you?" He looked at her then, and the raw emotion in his eyes made her forget to breathe. "Yes," he said simply. "More than you should be." The car pulled up to a building Aurelia didn't recognize, sleek, modern, security everywhere. Jinwoo's hand closed around hers as he led her inside, up an elevator that required both a key card and a fingerprint scan. "This is a safe house," he explained. "You'll stay here until we resolve this situation." "For how long?" "However long it takes." The apartment was beautiful, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, but Aurelia barely noticed. She rounded on Jinwoo, anger finally breaking through her fear. "This is insane. I didn't ask for any of this. You dragged me into your world, you made me work for you, and now I'm a target because of you." "I know." His composure cracked, frustration bleeding into his voice. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to care about someone who could be used against me? Then let me go. Put me on a plane back to America and forget I exist." "I can't." The words came out raw, almost anguished. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands framing her face. "I can't, Aurelia. I've tried. God knows I've tried to stay away from you, to keep this professional, to not feel." He broke off, his forehead dropping to rest against hers. "But I can't stop thinking about you. Every moment you're not near me, I'm wondering if you're safe. If you're happy. What you're thinking about. You've gotten under my skin, and I don't know how to cut you out." Aurelia's hands came up to grip his wrists, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. Jinwoo. I'll keep you safe, he promised, his breath warm against her lips. Whatever it costs me. Whatever I have to do. No one will hurt you. I swear it. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like she'd imagined. Not practiced or smooth or controlled. It was desperate and hungry and achingly tender all at once, like he was trying to pour every unspoken feeling into the press of his mouth against hers. Aurelia kissed him back just as fiercely, her fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jinwoo's eyes were dark with want and something that looked dangerously close to devotion. This complicates things, he said hoarsely. Aurelia laughed despite everything, despite the danger and the fear and the absolute insanity of falling for a man like him. You think? He smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his face into something almost boyish. Stay with me tonight. Just tonight. Let me hold you and pretend the rest of the world doesn't exist. Okay, she whispered. Just tonight. But they both knew it was a lie. This was already so much more than one night. This was everything. 3 days passed in the safe house. 3 days where Jinwoo came and went at odd hours, always tense, always making calls in low voices that Aurelia pretended not to overhear. 3 days where the world outside felt very far away, and it was just the two of them existing in this strange bubble of domesticity. He brought her favorite tea. Somehow he'd noticed which one she ordered at coffee shops. He cooked for her, and she discovered he was surprisingly good at it, moving through the kitchen with the same efficient grace he brought to everything else. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Her childhood in Atlanta, his complicated relationship with his father's legacy, her dreams of writing a novel, his secret love of old American jazz. And at night he held her. Just held her, his body curved around hers, his heartbeat steady against her back. He never pushed for more, though she could feel the tension in him, the restraint it took. There was something impossibly intimate about that restraint, about the way he touched her like she was precious. On the 4th morning, Aurelia woke up alone. She found him standing by the windows, staring out at the city, and even from across the room, she could see the rigid set of his shoulders. What's wrong? I'm meeting with the Busan faction today, Jinwoo said without turning around. To negotiate. Negotiate what? You for territory. They want control of the Gangnam district operations. I'm going to give it to them. Aurelia's blood went cold. Jinwoo, you can't do that. You said that territory is worth millions. Your own people will see it as weakness. I know. Then don't do it. He turned finally, and his face was set in stone, all the softness of the past few days locked away. You don't understand how this world works, Aurelia. My reputation, my territory, my power. All of it means nothing if you're dead. I would burn this entire organization to the ground before I let them touch you. And what about after? What happens when they see you gave up everything for me? When your own people turn against you? Then I'll deal with it. He crossed to her, taking her hands in his. You're worth it. You're worth everything. Tears burned in Aurelia's eyes. I'm not. I'm just some random woman who saw something she shouldn't have. You're destroying your life for the only thing that matters, he interrupted fiercely. For the only person who makes me want to be better than I am. Don't you see, Aurelia? You're not just some random woman. You're the reason I wake up wanting to see the sunrise. You're the reason I'm trying to find a way out of this life instead of just accepting it. You're my reason for everything now. She kissed him then, pouring all her fear and love and desperate hope into it. He responded instantly, crushing her against him, kissing her like she was air and he was drowning. When they finally broke apart, his eyes were bright with unshed emotion. Come back to me, Aurelia whispered. Whatever happens at this meeting, come back to me. Always, he promised. The call came 6 hours later. Not from Jinwoo. From Min Jae, his voice tight with something that sounded like grief. Miss Knox, there's been an incident. You need to come to Seoul Medical Center. Now. The drive was a blur. Aurelia's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Min Jae met her at the entrance, his face grim. He was shot during the negotiation. It was supposed to be a peaceful meeting, but he broke off, jaw working. Someone betrayed us. Someone in our own organization gave our location to a rival faction. They ambushed us. Is he alive? Yes. But Miss Knox, you need to understand, the bullet was meant for you. Aurelia's legs nearly gave out. What? The shooter was aiming through the window. Jinwoo saw the laser sight on you first. You were standing behind him. He pushed you out of the way and took the bullet himself. She was moving before Min Jae finished speaking, pushing past security, following signs until she found his room. Jinwoo was pale against the white sheets, bandaged and unconscious, but alive. So blessedly alive. Aurelia sank into the chair beside his bed and took his hand, pressing it to her cheek as tears finally spilled over. You idiot, she whispered. You beautiful, stupid, heroic idiot. His fingers twitched against her skin. His eyes opened, unfocused at first, then locking onto her face. Aurelia, he breathed. You're safe. I'm safe, she confirmed, trying to smile through her tears. You made sure of that. Like you promised. Good. His eyes were already drifting closed again. That's good. She stayed by his side all night, holding his hand, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest. Min-jae brought her coffee at dawn. The betrayal came from inside, he said quietly. We've identified the traitor. One of Jinwoo's own advisors has been working with the Busan faction for months. He's the one who told them about you, who set up the ambush. Where is he now? Being dealt with. Min-jae's expression was cold. But Miss Knox, you need to understand. Jinwoo's position is severely compromised. He lost the Gangnam territory in the negotiation, then got shot protecting you. Some in the organization are calling him weak, saying he's let a woman make him soft. He saved my life. I know. I was there. I saw his face when he thought you might die. Min-jae hesitated. But the others don't care about love, Miss Knox. They care about power. And Jinwoo is vulnerable right now. The implications settled over her like ice water. As long as she was here, Jinwoo would keep choosing her over his position. Keep sacrificing pieces of his empire to keep her safe. And eventually, there would be nothing left to sacrifice. Aurelia made her decision. Jinwoo woke to an empty room and a note on the pillow beside him. His hands shook as he unfolded it, already knowing what it would say, his heart breaking before he even read the words. Jinwoo, by the time you read this, I'll be on a plane back to America. Don't try to find me. Don't send your people after me. This is my choice. I love you. God help me. I love you more than I thought possible. But that's exactly why I have to leave. You're destroying yourself to keep me safe, and I can't watch that happen. I can't be the reason you lose everything you've built. You told me once that you couldn't choose a different path. But you can, Jinwoo. You're strong enough, smart enough, good enough to build something better than this life of blood and violence. I believe that, even if you don't yet. Be better. Be the man I know you can be. And maybe someday, when you've found your way out of the darkness, we'll meet again. I'll be waiting for that day. Love always, Aurelia. Jinwoo crushed the note in his fist, pain radiating through his chest that had nothing to do with the gunshot wound. She was gone. She'd left him, and this time he'd let her go. Because she was right. Min-jae found him an hour later, dressed and pulling out his Ford despite the doctor's protests. Where is she? Jinwoo demanded. Incheon Airport. Her flight leaves in 90 minutes. Get the car. Boss, are you sure? Get the car. Now. They made it to the airport in record time. Jinwoo moving through the terminal with grim determination despite the pain radiating through his shoulder. He spotted her at the gate, standing at the window, her posture radiating sadness. Aurelia. She spun around, eyes going wide when she saw him. Jinwoo, what are you? You should be in the hospital. You think I could just let you walk away? He closed the distance between them, ignoring the curious stares of other travelers. You think a piece of paper and a plane ticket could keep me from you? You need to let me go, Aurelia said, but her voice cracked. For both our sakes. No. Jinwoo took her hands, holding them against his chest so she could feel his racing heartbeat. You were right about everything in that note. I have been destroying myself. I have been sacrificing everything. But not for the reasons you think. Jinwoo, I'm not giving things up to keep you safe, Aurelia. I'm giving them up because they don't matter anymore. None of it matters. The territory, the power, the reputation. All of it is just empty noise without you. He moved closer, his forehead resting against hers. You asked me once why I do this life. The truth? I don't want it anymore. I haven't wanted to since the moment you looked at me in that alley, and I saw myself through your eyes. I want out, Aurelia. I want a different life. And I want it with you. You can't just walk away from your organization. Watch me. His smile was fierce and bright and completely reckless. I've spent the last hour on the phone. Min-jae is taking over operations. I'm liquidating my assets and setting up trusts for everyone who depends on the organization. In 6 months, I'll have no official connection to any of it. Aurelia stared at him, tears streaming down her face. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Come home with me, or let me come to America with you. I don't care where we go, as long as we're together. His hands cupped her face, thumbs brushing away her tears. I love you, Aurelia Knox. You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. Let me try. Let me spend the rest of my life trying. Your shoulder, you're still bleeding. I don't care. The flight is boarding. I don't care. Jinwoo, this is crazy. I know. He kissed her softly, tenderly, a promise and a plea. But it's the best kind of crazy. The kind that makes life worth living. Say yes, Aurelia. Say you'll give us a chance. She looked at him for a long moment. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd turned his whole world upside down for her. This man who'd taken a bullet meant for her. This man who was offering to walk away from everything he knew just to be with her. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course, yes. Jinwoo laughed, the sound bright and free and completely joyful. He kissed her again, deeper this time, not caring about the applause that erupted from the other passengers waiting at the gate. Let's go home, he murmured against her lips. Which home? Wherever you are. That's home now. 6 months later, Aurelia stood on the balcony of their apartment overlooking Hangang River, watching the sunset paint Seoul in shades of gold and pink. Behind her, she could hear Jinwoo in the kitchen, humming along to jazz as he cooked dinner. The transition hadn't been easy. Jinwoo had nightmares sometimes, phantom pains from the life he'd left behind. There were still people who resented his departure, who saw it as betrayal. But Min-jae protected them, and slowly the threats faded. Jinwoo had started legitimate businesses, a security consulting firm that helped companies protect themselves from organized crime. It turned out that expertise in the underworld translated well to preventing underworld activity. He was good at it. More than good. He was building something real, something he could be proud of. And every morning, he woke up next to her and smiled like she was the best thing he'd ever seen. Dinner's ready, Jinwoo called from inside. Aurelia turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, soft sweater and jeans replacing the sharp suits of his old life. He looked younger like this, happier, more at peace. Come here, she said, holding out her hand. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms, swaying gently to music only they could hear. I love you, he said, like he did every day, like the words were as necessary as breathing. I love you too. Thank you, Jinwoo whispered against her hair. For saving me. For seeing something worth saving. You saved yourself, Aurelia corrected. I just gave you a reason to try. Best reason I ever had. They stood there as the sun set over Seoul. Two people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk into the light together. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been safe. But it had been worth every risk, every sacrifice, every terrifying moment. Because love like this, the kind that transforms you, that makes you braver and better and more yourself than you've ever been, that love was worth everything. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. And tell me in the comments, would you risk everything for a love like this?